Hi everyone, and welcome to Pink Lady Presents with me, Pink Lady, and my co-host, Chaplain Dove. This program is all about lives well lived. And the young lady that's sitting beside me definitely started out as a baby with two parents who have lives well lived. Her mom and dad, U.S. Marines. And this is Stephanie Stone. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you so much.
So tell me, your mother and dad were both Marines when they got married, or tell us about that.
They met at Cherry Point, North Carolina, in the Marine Corps, right?
I love it.
And in those days, when you served as a woman, if you served in the Marines and you got married, you were asked to leave, and so she came. Oh, but that's again, that was part of the deal. So she was in for a few years and met my dad, and the rest is history.
Wow.
How many bases did you end up living on?
Yeah.
Well, actually, it was my sister was born first, and then they both came out, and we ended up here in Los Angeles. And my mother was from San Pedro originally, the harbor of Los Angeles. And so I grew up basically a rugrat running around Fort MacArthur, which is an Army base.
Right,
Sure.
I love it.
Yeah.
Now, you also joined
I did.
for quite a long time. Will you tell our audience about that? You joined the Navy.
I did. I joined for 20 years. We have a long tradition, as most veterans do, long tradition of serving in the military. And so I had an uncle that had been serving in Vietnam with the Air Force, and I had a great uncle that had served in the Navy, and several that had served in the Army, my parents in the Marine Corps. And I was looking at what I was going to do after high school. I wanted to go to university. I wanted to see the world, and a combination of all of that took me to the Navy, and I loved it. I loved every bit of it.
Well, first of all, we definitely, our audience out there, I know, is saying the same thing that we are. Thank you for your service, and thank
so
your
much.
parents for their service and the tradition that you have in your family.
Absolutely.
Did you go right into the service from high school, or did you go to college first?
No, I went straight in.
Wow. How young were you?
I was 17, yeah. And those days, again, I think they still require it. You have to have your parents' signature. So it was...
Well, yeah, what did they say?
It was,
I mean, really?
you signed up. Well, first of all, I made the announcement very early in my life that
Really?
this is what I wanted to do.
Oh.
Looking at Vietnam on the TV at night, and I had an older sister who was on the other side of that conversation around war demonstrations. I mean, she wasn't a demonstrator by any means, I can't say that, but the conversations came to our table at night, and if you will, I found myself walking down the middle. I felt like there was a place for me to serve, and to serve the service members. So I joined as a Navy corpsman, as a hospital corpsman, which is the same as an Army medic.
Wow.
And it allowed me to serve.
What background did you have as a medic?
I had none, but that's the beauty of the military, is they teach you everything you need to know.
I see. I get. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I didn't know how to shake down a thermometer. In those days, everything was manual, right? So
Sure.
you learn in your first, they were called A schools. You learned in A school how to shake down a thermometer, how to give each other's immunizations and shots. That was an experience, I know.
Now,
I didn't realize that part.
So how long did that training take before you went into like combat? I mean, is that...
Yeah, no, we didn't. So I came in right after the war.
Okay.
I'm actually part of the Vietnam era, but they didn't have us deploy. I served with a lot of Vietnam veterans, and I still say I give credit to our Vietnam veterans. It's the reason why I joined, was because I recognize that all this hate and hostility that was being seen in the streets during that time were against really the war and not the service members. And so that was my opportunity to give back. And I've been lucky and blessed to be able to continue to that service now that I'm
God
retired.
bless you. Now, your education is a lot here. A Bachelor of Science, Master of Public Administration degree, and now you're going for a doctoral degree. What is that, the doctoral?
You know, most people do this early in their life.
Never too late.
That's it. I've always been interested in, just the inquiry.
Okay.
What's going on?
Right.
What's happening? I was
Questioning,
looking,
right.
absolutely. Critical thought. I was lucky enough and to have met some interesting individuals when I first retired out of the Navy, and I
When did
went
you
to-
retire, Steph?
in '97.
97, okay.
And I met somebody that introduced me to an organization called CORO, C-O-R-O.
Yes, and what is that?
It's a nonprofit organization that's been around since the 40s,
Okay.
and that trains recent graduates in public affairs. And the interesting thing is that the first class was made up of all veterans. And so
Wow.
it was really about getting to know what's happening in your community.
Right.
How do leaders make decisions? What are the best practices, and what are the red flags? And so I went through that program as the old fellow, because everyone else was 23, 27
love
to
it.
27, and there I was I think I was 37, almost
Oh,
40. So
really old.
I was the old fellow.
Okay.
But it was discovering my own community, because I came back to Los Angeles and I was chosen for the fellows class, and it's a small class of 12 individuals that
Oh
go
my
through for the
goodness,
year.
okay.
So for 12 months I was walking the streets of LA, getting introduced to the leadership like, at that time, Mayor Reardon or
Right.
an Eli Broad, or the labor leaders in the community. People that were affecting change and really affecting the larger community and trying to understand how that works. So I felt like I was in a position to, I felt like I was in a position to learn, and
Right.
I fell in love with that. And so afterwards, I ran the program for another 7 years, the
Oh,
Fellows
wow.
program. I came out, and ultimately I ended up getting hired by the County of Los Angeles for the Department of Military and Veteran Affairs, but I still miss that inquiry.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I remember
yeah.
meeting you for the first time years ago with Steve Rosemarin with the
Oh,
county
my
meetings.
goodness. Yes.
And Steve has since passed on. And what people from around the world who watch this program may not understand is, as the chief deputy of the LA County Military Veterans Affairs, I know your office is at Bob Hope Patriotic Hall.
Right.
And we've had Brigadier General Ruth Wong on the show,
Ah, yes.
who is the director.
Yeah.
And the programs, everything that deals with veteran-centric active duty, families of deployed, that's your bailiwick.
Right. That's
And you
it.
do it really well.
And,
You know, again, I've been doing this probably all my life.
yes.
And
Well, you were, and just to tell our audience,
Mm.
the first woman chair of the LA County Veterans Advisory Commission. You were the first woman, I mean, we're talking everyone,
First, a lot of firsts.
a lot of firsts. The first woman chair of the LA County Veteran Affairs Commission. So, and then you were, and still are, I believe, on Mayor Garcetti's Veteran Affairs Committee. Am I correct?
I-
So, how did you feel about being the first woman on these things? I mean, you're surrounded by men there.
yeah.
I mean, how did they take you coming in to their world, so to speak?
They invited me in.
I love it.
They invited me in.
Great.
So,
Because they
Love it.
recognize talent.
Yeah.
you know
And
what?
so-
I think that they were just, again, we're still talking about the Vietnam veterans, I have to say. That was the
Yeah.
era that so when I retired and I was completing my master's degree and I was working through the VA, and I'd heard about the mayor's council.
Right.
And so I started just attending the meetings to try to understand what that was and what
Right.
that looked like. And most of them were Vietnam veterans, if not all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they just invited me to the table.
I
First
I
of
love
all,
don't know if
come
you're
and be a
aware, I
part
went
of
in
that.
in 62 and came out in 68.
Thank you.
But I've been a chaplain
Welcome home.
57 years, so I've never stopped.
There you go.
And that sort of segues into something. I'm now the president of the LA National Cemetery Foundation. And as part of that, I get to have a privilege of recognizing people who have given their all. And one of the things we did is we started something that's very much like a challenge coin. We choose to call it a presentation coin. And this is the first time the National Cemetery has ever done this. And so we have these presentation coins, and on behalf of the board of directors and our director, Tom Ruck, it gives me great privilege to present you with one of our original coins.
Thank you so much.
First time issued in 120 years.
Oh my goodness.
And
this
thank
is
you.
So,
Thank you for your
so much.
service.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you.
Well,
Welcome home.
Well,
Yes.
people like yourself who really, your whole life is dedicated to the service. your parents, your family, and everything. I think it's a whole new look at what women are doing today. I mean, they really are. And years ago, I had an aunt who went into the WACs,
There you
right?
go.
That was the
Women's
Army.
Army Corps.
There you go.
And the family was so upset.
Right.
I mean, it was like, why is she going? Oh, no, first thing they said was, she's going to get a husband.
There you
That
go.
was the first, I mean, you're
There you
talking
go.
50, 60 years ago. But it's a whole different aura. And today, what you're going through. You were also, right now, being Chief Deputy Director with Ruth Wong. What is it that you do, Stephanie?
So our responsibility is to connect the men and women that have served and their families to the resources and the benefits that they already deserved and have earned. So it's connecting them to their federal benefits through the VA system
Right.
and through the state benefits through CalVet or California State Department of Veteran Affairs.
It's all of it, right?
It's all of it, and it's been expanded because as the needs have grown for our
Yes.
community, we recognize that our responsibilities have grown as well. I like to think of us as servant leaders. Honestly, that's who we are. We're here to serve our community. Our bosses are not, forgive me, are not the 5 supervisors.
Right.
Our bosses are the veterans of the community and their families. That's why we're here, to be able to service them. And just to go back quickly about being the first woman and all that, it wasn't that I'm that exceptional by any means. I was in the right place at the right time. It's sad that it took until the 90s
Correct.
or in some cases the 2000s
Right.
before they decided to invite somebody. But those men that were there as part of that, Steve was one of those individuals. Those men were people that understood the value of diversity. And that's all it was.
And we were privileged. We had Major General Peter Gravitt, who was
There you
Secretary of
go.
Veterans
Yes.
Affairs, on our show, and Dr. Vito Imbasciani is coming on the show.
There you
So
go.
we're covering the gamut of CalVet
Yeah.
for the state of California.
And
I'd
talk
like
about
to-
it, diversity.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell me something. What is Sparks about? Tell our people.
So the Los Angeles Sparks are the women's, it's the professional women's basketball team for
I
Los
love it.
Angeles, and they're champions. And again, they're champions in many ways. They came to us about a year ago and said, we want to affect change for our women veterans, and not just by focusing on them for one game.
Okay.
We want to look at it for the entire year. And we want to challenge other sports teams to do the same, but we're going to be the tip of the spear. We're going to go out there and develop a project and a program that will attract women and the
Right.
veterans, which are one of the hardest communities within the veteran communities to attract,
Really?
to connect
Why
to.
is that? I mean, I would think they'd be the first ones up there.
No.
Really?
So most women, when they serve or when they leave service, we change out of our uniforms and we take down our hair, and then we don't recognize or are not recognized by others as being from the military. And consequently, we don't recognize each other either. So they don't
Interesting.
receive their benefits. They instead go out and we connect and serve our families now, serve our communities.
Right.
We'll see that. But they don't serve themselves. And I think going back to the Sparks,
Right.
the coach, Derek Fisher, made a comment the other day about his own experience, that when he left being a player and then ultimately being fired as a coach, he thought, well, I'm okay, I'm doing fine, I'll take care of my family.
Right.
Until he wasn't, until he had an accident and he realized, I'm not doing okay, and until I take care of myself, I'm not really taking care of my family. And it was a great opportunity for us to say, that's the same thing that's happening to our women vets.
Wow.
That we think we're okay because we're taking care of our family,
Right,
we're
but-
taking care of the community. But we really have
What
to
about
stop
us?
and, yeah,
I get it.
we're not, if the foundation isn't set, the house isn't going to be the home,
Correct.
right? It's not, it might be in danger.
Yeah,
So-
I want to pay special attention to, this year was the 75th anniversary of D-Day.
Right.
And you hosted a wonderful program at the Bob Hope Patriotic Hall
Right.
with many World War II veterans. You had the Montford Point Marines, who
Oh.
we've had on the show.
I love
We had
them.
5 of them here.
I want to tell
God.
everyone, each one of them is adorable.
Yeah.
They're 90, 91, 93,
Right.
and one of them sang.
Yeah,
Oh, my
Henry
goodness.
Jackson.
Right. So, Stephanie, in winding things down, what do you want to be involved in getting done in the future? Because you're a young woman. You've got, thank you God, many years to go to help all of our veterans. What do you want to happen?
I think there's a lot of great people doing good work. What I think my experience and education has brought me to is to say I'm trying to affect this particular community of women vets. Not to say that we have a responsibility to all our veterans, but for women veterans, I would like to go ahead and see that this program that we have with the Spark the True You, will become a model for the nation.
For the nation, right?
So that the communities embrace the female veteran community, welcome them in, engage them, so that they and their children
Can benefit.
Absolutely.
Can benefit.
Absolutely.
Well, as I said to everyone, this is a program, when I say of lives well lived, of people not that have lived and are gone, but are living a life that helps others. And Stephanie, you really are. First of all, you're a charming young lady. You're edible, you're adorable. You have heart for the veteran community because of your family. But I think more than that, I think that you see beyond that. And I see you think of the other people in our country. Because if Sparks does go nationwide, wow, wouldn't that help everyone out there?
Mm-hmm.
By the way, if anyone is interested, how do they connect with you in case they might have someone for Sparks and to help with whatever you might need? How do they get in touch with you?
Best way to get in touch with us is to go onto our website at www.mva, that stands for Military and Veteran Affairs, .lacounty.gov. You'll get to our website and there's contact us, and it can be anything from I need help to I can provide help for others.
Now, if you didn't get that,
I was
go
gonna-
ahead.
I was going to say, because people may not be writing this down
Right.
and get
Sure.
it, is they will write to pinkladypresents.com,
Wonderful.
and the email is pinklady7@earthlink.net. We will forward those inquiries
Wonderful.
to you so that they can connect directly.
Thank you so much.
Again-
We're happy to do
Thank
it.
you for the
Again,
opportunity
again,
to
I
share all
thank
That's
this.
why we're here.
Ladies, gentlemen, children, because I include everybody out there.
Yeah.
You've been privileged today to meet a true veteran of our country, Stephanie
Thank you
Stone.
again.
God
Yeah.
bless you. Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so
Thank
much.
you again.
Thank you again. See you soon.
I'm gonna live till I die. I'm gonna laugh